Exophobia is a fast-paced FPS with Metroidvania progress, and it was made by a solo dev from Portugal. Now, is it a throwback to the classics, or is it a game that changes the whole category of FPS? Welcome everyone to the review of Exophobia. In this video I'm going to talk to you about my thoughts about the game. I would generally call this a review, but I had a hard time through most of the game with motion sickness, which made me have to follow a walkthrough provided by the studio, so I'm not going to give it a review score. Now let's move on to the game. As I've said before, Exophobia is included in the FPS genre, with some aspects being very inspired by franchises like Doom, Duke Nukem, and Quake, but it has its own twist. We'll get there in time. For now, let me tell you a bit about the base of the game. In this title, we start by waking up in a room full of pixelated corpses, and then we make our way through a spaceship in search of the last human survivors. Simple, right? Not quite. See, the spaceship is infested with aliens, so we have to fight our way through different floors packed with a good variety of enemies until we get to our end goal. To understand how to get to our end goal, we have to understand what is a Metroidvania progress system. The simple way to define it is by saying it's an interconnected world gated by player abilities, which means it's not an open world because it has gates which make you backtrack to open it after you unlock a certain ability. Now, in Exophobia's case, the system implements the elements very well, and it gives the game a little bit more depth and exploration incentive to find all the upgrades, be them optional or mandatory for progression. Moving on to level design. I feel like that is really important in this game specifically because we're playing in a spaceship composed of 4 floors. It seems simple enough. You move from the first floor till you get to the 4th, clearing every enemy and boss in your way, and you should be fine. But because of the Metroidvania system, it makes the game progression a lot more weird. The game itself doesn't give you a lot of hints or tips on where to go through the entirety of the game, so you start on the first floor and it feels like you have to explore and explore until you find something that gives vibes of being progress, because once again, the game doesn't tell you. There are some signals which make you understand that you're going into an important room, like doors with caution signs, but that's about it. Other than that, it just feels like you're running around clueless, and that goes on through the entirety of the game. Another thing in my opinion that doesn't aid the level design is the art style on the room walls. I don't know if it's the natural fast pacing of the game or the vibrant colors, but every room feels the same except for some, which makes it very confusing to navigate through some levels. It just felt like being inside a giant maze while blindfolded. While on this topic, I do want to mention I am new to the genre, but while talking with a friend, they gave me the information that some of these games have game-breaking sequences, which usually are not a problem of any sort because it's intended, but I did find a game-breaking sequence when I took a battery in floor 2 through some rooms and killed this enemy that is showing on the screen right now, which eventually led me to being in a room where I couldn't go forward or back because I was missing the weapon upgrade needed to progress the game. This led to a full restart of the game, and no one likes that. I've reported to the dev, and hopefully when you're all playing, this has already been patched. I didn't really know how to include this, but this is something health-wise I really have to inform you all about, which has to do with motion sickness. This game is very fast-paced, and the rotation of the camera matches the pacing in some rooms because you need to shoot or move so fast. The game does have accessibility options like camera movement percentage and screen shake removal that help, but if you suffer from motion sickness and still want to play the game, I would advise you to disable everything you can to make the camera movement feel less swingy, and even after all that, I would say to do game sessions of about 10 to 20 minutes, because that's the threshold of time before I started feeling sick. In all of my gaming history, I've never suffered from being motion sick. This was the only game that made me feel like that, and it was bad. So keep that in mind. Going back to another important topic of the game is the difficulty. This is a hard genre by nature, and I think I made it harder on myself by playing it on the PS5 with a DualSense, but Zarc Attack thought of everyone when it comes to difficulty, since you can set it up from relax all the way to hell. Now, I've played most of the game on normal and it felt fine. It felt like a real challenge. The game starts by throwing enemies with easier mechanics at you, and as you progress through the game, harder mechanic enemies and bosses will start popping, so it felt very natural. I did change the difficulty from normal to relax towards the end, but it was definitely because of motion sickness. I'm a god at video games, I swear. And that about wraps all the topics I wanted to talk to you about Exophobia. Overall, it's a fun little game. I finished it in about 5 hours, but there's a lot of replayability since there are multiple endings and even secrets and treasures to find across all floors of the spaceship if you're a patient and completionist person. So don't worry about the game being too short. Thank you Zarc Attack for providing me with a key, and don't forget to subscribe and comment below if you find any treasures or any secrets. Who knows? Till next time.